Hi, this is Amy, and in this video, I'm going to share a strategy you can use right now to get your book on the bestseller list in Amazon.
Becoming a bestseller on Amazon can be a lot easier than you think if you use the category strategy. So you may be thinking, well, why bother becoming a bestseller? There are a number of good reasons to work at becoming a bestseller because it does give you more leverage with your book. First of all, you can get some bragging rights with your marketing and promotion. You can state you're a Amazon bestseller. You can put that on your blog, on social media, on anything that you're using to promote your book or your books. In addition, it also gives you more credibility as an expert and authority in your niche. That would probably be geared a little bit more toward nonfiction publishers and authors, especially if you are building a following or if you're selling services or additional products. Having a number one bestseller is going to give you more credibility. In addition to that, Amazon will be helping you get more leverage for your book, and that can ultimately lead to more reviews and ratings from readers, and that will help your book show up more on Amazon and become more popular because of their search algorithm. Because the more ratings and reviews you have, the more popular your book is. Those are some of the reasons to become a bestseller and to do this strategically. A lot of times what happens is authors and publishers just randomly think, "Oh, well, it's up to the Amazon gods if I'm going to become a bestseller." That's actually not true. You can do some strategic planning with your book that will greatly increase your chances of becoming a bestseller. One of the ways you can sort of see how Amazon is putting together and showcasing bestsellers is you can go to their bestseller page here. And what they have, the way they have it set up is they basically have it where each category has bestsellers, and it's usually like the top 100 that they put in there. Sometimes it's not even 100 though, if that's a small category, and they may not even have 100 books, which is going to lead me to showing you how it's sometimes to your benefit to pick those smaller categories because it's so much easier to become a bestseller. Those categories that have fewer titles are going to be much easier to rank for, just simply because it's a number game. Also, if you have a category that has books with a higher sales rank, that can mean that that category of those books is not selling particularly well. But if there are books on the bestseller list that have a lot of higher sales ranks, then what you can do is it's very easy to move up that bestseller list simply by just selling a few more additional copies of your book. The gap between you and that number one book on that category is much, much smaller. It may be a matter simply of selling two more books a month, and then you're moving up into the number one category, as opposed to a really competitive category where you are having to sell 500 more books a month to move into the number one category. Now, obviously, these categories are going to be less popular, the ones that are less competitive, and overall, you may sell fewer parts, fewer copies of your book. But you don't have to live in that category forever. And it can be a very good starting place for your book if you're trying to get more traction. Competitiveness in categories relies on a couple of different factors. It's first of all, it is how many books are going to be in that category, but it's also how many copies of the books that are top ranked are selling on average and what their sales ranks are. So it's kind of like two different things. In terms of getting just more general information and finding categories that don't have a lot of book titles in them, there is a fast way to do this. You can basically do a book search, either book or Kindle search right on Amazon. So you go search and go to books, or search and go to Kindle store. And then what you would do is you would basically put in like the main or the general keyword for your book. Now, the overall book search is going to be more competitive and have more titles because it's going to have both Kindle books and print books. But you might want to pull up both. Kindle also will sometimes have different categories that are available than the books. And so you'll be able to see how that is set up. So let me give you a couple of examples here. So, for example, this is paranormal romance. Now, with paranormal romance, if you look here on the books, you'll see that these are the most popular categories. And there are actually more categories, but they're not very relevant. These are the main ones that Amazon brings up. Like they start bringing up nonfiction categories. If you see here, you can see fantasy romance only has 91 titles, which is a lot less than just the paranormal romance, which would be the main keyword. If you're just getting your book started, you may want to put it in a category like this. Now, if you go over to the Kindle store, you'll see that there are some very different categories here, but they're also very competitive. Here is a nonfiction example. Stop smoking. So if you put in that keyword in books, this is what comes up. For example, if you put a stop smoking book in health, fitness, and dieting, you're competing with way more titles than you are in something like substance abuse, smoking. Drug dependency only has 124 titles. And we can see over here in the Kindle store that a lot of these are actually echoing this, and then the drug dependency only has 20 titles. So if you are publishing a Kindle book on stop smoking, if you can get your book into the drug dependency category in the Kindle store, there's a very, very good chance that you will become on the bestseller list for that. That doesn't really tell you, though, how popular the main book, the top book is in each category, and I'll go into that here in a moment. But in terms of the strategy, what you can do is basically you can choose a category you can become a bestseller in. And then after you become number one, you can switch your book to a more popular category. And you can do that by changing it in the dashboard if that category is in there, or by writing to Amazon through KDP if you're doing a Kindle book, or just in general if you're doing a print and Kindle book. The thing is KDP does not have all the categories listed. If you go to the KDP dashboard, you'll just see that there's just pretty much the main basic categories there with the subcategories. One way to really dig in, though, and to really make sure you understand these categories and pick the best one is to use a competitive analysis tool called Bestseller Ranking Pro. And what this does is it shows all the book and Kindle categories in Amazon, and it now actually has Amazon UK as well. It tells you how many books are in each of those very specific categories. It basically goes from the top book, middle, and then the last book in that top 100 category. And in addition to the sales rank, it shows you basically correlating how many sales on average you would need to get to number one, top 50, and the top 100. This is a tool that's really essential for moving up to categories and getting more leverage out of your book, because what you can do is position your book in a category where maybe you would only need to make 20 sales a month to get in the top 10. And to beat the number one book in that category, you would only have to get 25 sales a month. It really allows you to move forward and get in these less competitive categories, and then you can continue to try to get into more competitive categories so your book will have more visibility. And I just want to show you a brief example here of how it's set up. Is you have the category with the specifics, you'll have the sales rank of the book, the top one, the sales rank of the top 50, and the sales rank of the top 100, and when it's updated. And there's also a lot of training on how to read this, because when you click on these sales ranks, it'll let you know about how many books you have to sell. This is not a particularly competitive category compared to something like this. The sales rank of the number one book is higher, which means it's not selling as many copies as a book here. And then even to get in the top 50, you don't even need a very low sales rank at all. That's almost 100,000. So again, this is just a really helpful tool, and it is something I recommend. I would just suggest with categories, it's one of these great things here where you can get in real competitive categories and get a lot more visibility and traction for your book if you are strategic about it.